Sup YouTube, I'm going to be showing you guys the easiest and dumbest way to hit Hyper in Hyper Roll. If for whatever reason you want to hit this rank without having to think even a little bit in every game and forcing your way through the ranks to reach Hyper, this is the guide for you. And we are going to be abusing Helions for it. Helions might be the first idea you have when you think about Hyper Roll, but the way we're going to play it is slightly different. We won't be focusing on level 3-star pieces. We will be focusing on the A core of Zig's carry, and we won't be selling him in the end for to change it for a Teemo. So we're going to be walk through you watch what you have to do during the game. So for starters, you're going to buy as many Ziggs, Poppy, and Clads as possible. In your first shop, you're going to sell anything you've gotten from your first PvE rounds and roll as much as you can after Ziggs, Clad, and Poppy. You're always going to buy full shop to reduce the chances of getting pieces that are not Clad, Poppy, or Ziggs, and be refreshing with always with 0 gold, only not selling Hellion pieces. At the end of the first stage, when you go into the first PvP stages, you should have at least 1 Clad, 1 Poppy, and 1 Ziggs. If you're lucky enough, they will all be upgraded. If not, some will be upgraded, some won't. But the magic in Helions is that it's gonna beat any weak board there is. If you are lucky, you're also gonna beat strong boards, but a weak Hellion board can beat really weak boards, which sometimes Hyper Roll is kind of unironically full of weak boards early game. So for starters, we're going, as I said, we're going to be building our Ziggs throughout the game. So we're going to be, what's our core build for him? Well, we want blue buff and Jewel Gauntlet. In that order, it is important to have blue buff. It's the most important item in your build is a blue buff Ziggs. Even though at level 4 we'll be adding Brand, Ziggs is still the one you want to have the items. Why Ziggs over Brand? I don't know. I think it's because the 4 range is really valuable against the Brand 3 range. But when I try to put these items on Brand, I notice a big difference, especially in the early game. Ziggs really packs a punch early game, and he is definitely the better carry. So this is what your board will be looking like when you're level 4. Remember, you're going to still be buying Ziggs, Poppies, and Clad at this stage. When you hit stage 5, not really stage 5, when you're at level 5, you're going to have the first decision of your game. You're going to either just add either Cannon, where's Cannon, or Lulu. You're going to add one of those and keep on running Brand. You're usually going to do this when you have a Brand 2, or you're going to run 5 Mystics. I recommend that if you still don't have a Brand 2, you should really just run 5 5 Helions, because Zig is gonna really crack people with the 50% buff, and this is gonna be more little bodies for your Zigs to pop off. But if you have a Brand 2, you can run him instead of the Cannon. At level 6, you're gonna add back Brand. Remember, Brand is your best Spellweaver to go along Ziggs. He's gonna shred a lot of MR. But you can also run any other Spellweaver in Zyra or Victor. Those are also just fine. Victor is going to help a lot with frontlining. Zyra is going to help with CC. So these aren't going to be major issues. Ren is, although the best, since he's going to shred a lot of MR and also dish a bunch of damage. At this stage, you should also be looking for a Morello on Cannon. Maybe even looking at it a little bit more than you should be looking at less exciting. Your less exciting is either going to be IE or Rabadons. Any item that isn't one of those, you shouldn't really put on Ziggs. Those are going to be saved for your future Teemo, which we hope we're going to get. If you ever can build Chalice or Ziggs, you can equip them to either Lulu or Brand. If you want to keep to Brand in order to sell it late game for your Teemo, that's perfectly fine. If you want to keep it to Lulu and then sell it to the Teemo and late game, is perfectly fine. But you should always be building these items when you already have at least blue buff on Cannon, on Ziggs. Extra tiers aren't going to be a problem because of the Chalice of Power, because you can be Chalice of Power, and there are a lot of units that benefit from blue buff. that being brand and your future team. Next, level 7, we're going to be adding, we want to be adding Rel. This is your actually best in slot level 7. Rel is going to add a lot of tankage to your team since you're going to be always staggered here. Always position her as far away from Ziggs so that her shield can cross your whole team and shield everyone and leave a big stun for the enemy team if they have assassins or yada 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 yada. On level 8, no real surprise, we want to put in Nautilus. You can also put Nautilus in a level 7. It's better to put in Hell because she has a lot of value on level 7 because she can't be burst down easily. And Cavalier is a little bit more reliable than Knight. True Cavalier is a little bit better than Knight 2. But it's perfectly fine. It's only frontline. That's pretty much all you're worried about. Frontline for your Ziggs to pop off as hard as possible. And at level 9, assuming you didn't hit Teemo at level 8, which never happens to me, but you can be luckier than me, I guess. You want to swap Teemo for either Cannon, Poppy, or Lulu, depending on what your opponent has. So if your opponent has a lot of 80 damage, you want to keep in Poppy because you are going to obviously keep in Nautilus, so you should swap out Lulu because your opponents are mostly AD and you're not going to be needing Mystic. If your opponents have a lot of magic damage, you should swap in Poppy because you're also probably going to swap out Nautilus. So you can swap out both for Teemo. If your enemies have mixed in damage, you should swap out Cannon for Teemo and put Cannon items on Teemo. So he's going to have something like Morello and maybe GA or something like that, or some attack speed items. That's mostly what Teemo is always going to have. And your last piece is either going to be a Mystic, or it's going to be a Jax for another Ironclad. You can also swap out Brand if you feel like it. Teemo is going to be adding a lot of damage. If you already have, but you really just want to swap out Brand if you have a static shift in any other pieces. Could be on Lulu, could be on Teemo, could be on pretty much anyone. If you already have, you can swap out Brand for ideally an Ivern, so that you have now Invoker for all your pieces, and you have Mystic and Ironclad, and you have really mixed in resistances. You don't really need to add in anymore. This is the most brainless comp you can build. This is core even without Cannon, because this is a lot of frontline. This is a lot of CC, and this is a ton of damage. And Teemo doesn't really let the enemy team play. This is what you're going to be looking at as a core build for every game, and this is pretty much in the top of the league of hyper roll, and it's really consistent. And the good thing is that even when you lose, you're usually going to get 5ths, or in the worst case scenario 6th. It's going to be really hard to get ace in the game. So yeah, I hope this guide helps you in climbing out of all your way up to hyper. I hope this helps you get the end of season rewards, and I hope you like the video. I'll be seeing you. Subscribe.